today's class we will be understanding the data analysis principles. We'll be talking about the roles, ecosystem, life cycle. We'll be talking about the data-driven mindset, etc. Next 4 classes, basically, we will focus on SQL for data analysis, right? So first we will, again, guys, I completely understand that none of you have a background in any of these. So you should not worry. We will be doing it from ground zero, right? So we will assume that you have not even heard of these terms, and we will do it from the simplest of level, and then we will go on, right? So we will not try to make it extremely complicated, but we will do more hands-on where we will see how certain things can be used for analysis and so on, right? So because SQL is the most important, one of the most important tools for data analysis, because in any organization that you go to work for, right, their data would mostly be in databases. So unless you know how to pull that data, you cannot do an analysis, right? So this is required. So we can do a lot of analysis in SQL by writing queries, but at least we should be able to pull, even if we want to do it in Excel or Power BI or Tableau, we should be at least capable of pulling the data from the database tables. That makes SQL very, very important, right? Then we will understand, we'll have a class on statistical analysis, right? Because that is required in understanding analytics. Then what we'll do, we will spend some time in understanding Microsoft Excel. We will do dashboarding in Excel and do some of the other functionality. Then we will move on to Tableau, right? Where we will do a lot of visualization, dashboarding, and data storytelling using Tableau, right? And after that, we'll move on to Power BI, where we will also do a similar whatever, but we will not take the exact same use cases. We will have 2 or 3 different use cases in Tableau. We will have 2 or 3 different use cases in Power BI, so that you have about 6 or 7 different use cases in these 2 tools. Similarly, in Excel, you will have 2 or 3 different use cases. So altogether, at least 10 plus use cases, which are separate from each other, is what we will do, right? And all of those are hands-on. And towards the end, we will focus on some of the specific scenarios, right? And then what we'll have, we'll also have a capstone project, which I will explain towards the end. But all of you need to kind of complete the capstone project for this course to be deemed as complete, right? So this is the skeleton of what we can expect, right? So let's go. I think a few more people have already joined. Bashwanath and Bhupen, if you can hear us now, can you give a quick introduction about yourself, both of you? Like, what is your background? Where do you belong to? Any knowledge about analytics prior to this? So both Bhupen and Bashwanath, if you can hear me.
Hi, yeah, I can hear. Hi, my name is Vaswant. I'm working in Deloitte as a senior financial analyst. I'm working on that. Yes, I have some part of the analytics side. I have Power BI knowledge on for that. Majorly, I work into the core accounting side and part of reporting and reporting structure. So I was interested in major data analytics side so that I can grow myself into the analytics side. So that is the reason I enrolled for the data analytics course.
And which place you're currently located?
Yeah, I'm from Hyderabad.
Okay. Yeah, Bhupen, can you please also give an introduction? I think Bhupen is not. Anyways, so guys, let's get started. Right. So we'll spend the next 20 classes doing whatever we just saw, right? In terms of, and it's very detailed. It is full of foundational theory as well as practical hands-on, right? So the session 1, which was the orientation session, is kind of done, right? Then let's come to session 2, what we have. So the first part of session 2 was supposedly to understand the batch dynamics, which we just had. It is 3 out of the 5 people who joined. Then group creation, we will do it next class. We try to understand. So first 1.5 classes will be slightly theoretical in nature, where we will talk about the foundation and then we will go on to the practical implementations, right? So what I will also do is, because you people do not have a background in any of the tools, what I have done is I have actually created a detailed document, right? So that you can follow, and then maybe what you can do is you can install those tools in your system, right? What I have also made sure that while we are working on the open source or non-licensed versions, which means free tools. So for example, when we were working with Excel, that will be part of our operating system also. We don't need to purchase it separately. We'll also be working with MySQL, which is open source, meaning you do not need to pay for the license. We'll be working with Power BI Desktop, which is again free and open source. Unfortunately, Tableau as a tool in itself, when you install it in your desktop, requires a license. But there is also a free version of Tableau, right? Which we say that you can create it in your desktop and then publish it into the cloud, right? You will not have the file in your desktop, but it will be there in the cloud. So that way you can preserve the file. So we will not be spending a single rupee on procuring expensive licenses, because that's not the goal of the session. But we'll make sure that you get a flavor of all the tools without having to pay for the expensive licenses by using the open source versions that is provided by the company, right? And I'll guide you along all of those. So for next class, where we will have SQL, we will have a requirement to install that in our system, right? So what I have done, I have prepared a document which will give you a step-by-step guidance of how you will install that, right? So let me share that right away. Okay. So guys, can everyone access the chat? Guys, can anyone confirm that I have put the first file, which is SQL step-by-step installation guide, right, in the chat of this conversation? Can you people access it, download it for reference?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all of everyone who is there, I'll mention. Okay, so guys, I've shared that file, right? That is extremely detailed way of installing MySQL, right? So you can follow that step by step, and maybe for next class you can have that installed. So today we will go and understand the importance of analytics for data-driven decision making, the roles in the analytics ecosystem, DA lifecycle and steps, and method of analyzing and interpreting a data-driven mindset with an industrial example and real-world examples. Right. So that's pretty much for today. This is the first class. We will not overload with a lot of topics. But from tomorrow, I think we will move on to understanding a bit more about those DA stuff and also into SQL. Right. Okay. Now, many of you work with FP&A. At least I think Christina mentioned she works in FP&A, right? So now, what happens in FP&A? There was a lot of surveys that were done, right? And people were questioning that how effective is your FP&A process in driving the right decision for the organization. So people had two aspects to question: the effectiveness versus the efficiency. Unfortunately, and this is the pre-analytics ingestion period, right? So nowadays, if you see, most of the FP&A has somehow imbibed analytics, but when it had not, only 25% felt it is good or better in terms of effectiveness, and only 19% felt it is good or better in terms of efficiency. So without analytics playing a part, both the effectiveness and efficiency were on the lower side, right? But with data and like you said, AI, ML, data analytics, etc., coming in, right? There's been a shift of dynamics. Now, why that has happened? So earlier, it was more of a bottom-up approach. But let's say in the last half a decade or a decade, it has mostly been a top-down approach. Now, what does that mean? That means the new directions are coming from the modern CFOs, right? So earlier, it was not a top-down approach. It never came from the top. So the implementation was very rugged, haphazard, and sometimes not timely. But now the modern CFOs have realized that having data analytics is not a luxury anymore, it's a necessity, right? So you need finance teams to inculcate better data analytics for supporting and analyzing the customer risk, segments, behavior, risks, and customer needs, right? And this is leading teams to become more strategic and data driven. So almost 3/4 of all the modern CFOs are planning to materially invest in analytics to support better decision making. And almost half of these people are considering organizational change to integrate analytics with the business, right? Okay, so since you people all are already part of the financial setup, what do you think are some of the major challenges? So all of you would have understood that scattered data is a very big challenge, right? Data is in silos and it is scattered everywhere. So there is no unified golden source of data. The fraud identification mechanisms are very weak, static, and rule-based, right? And outdated to a certain extent, right? Targeting customer using analytics is almost non-existent. Because the data is scattered and siloed, you do not get a single view of the customer. And last but not the least, the concept of data governance is extremely weak. These are some of the prime challenges that a financial organization faces, right? And then if you could ask me, what are the key areas where analytics can make a deep impact? So it will majorly fall into three categories: your risk analysis, improving the experience of the customer, and optimizing your operations. Can somebody give me an example of at least optimizing operations in the financial sector using analytics? Yes. Guys, one more request, right? So I want it to be very conversational, right? I ask questions and expect some response from your end, right? It's not just that I'll come through and give a lecture and go away. So what I expect is it will be more interesting if people can share your experiences, come up with some answers, examples when some question is asked, right? So that is the minimum expectation I'm having from you people. So can someone give an example of how analytics can optimize your operations in the financial world?
Majorly, it will speed up the process of the. That is only my. I think so. If you use data analytics, I mean, accurate quality and accuracy will be higher, and the speeding up the process will be more accurate.
Yes, somewhat correct. So again, remember one thing: before AI came in and before automations came in, it was all a very manual process, right? In the world of finance, not only in the world of finance, but everywhere else, right? Everything was very manual. Now, let's say you had 8 hours of working possible in a day, maybe 6 hours were spent in doing redundant manual work, and only 2 hours could be spent in strategic thinking and doing a higher cognitive work. Now, with your analytics, AI, ML all coming in, what it has done is it has reduced the time of the manual, repetitive, mundane work. So instead of 6 hours, maybe it takes 60 minutes now, right? It is accurate, fast, right? And that has led to you having 6+ hours for cognitive work rather than 2 hours. So your productivity has increased, as Bashwant mentioned. Yes, accuracy has increased because these tasks which require a lot of manual intervention, repetitive, let's say boring, there's a huge chance of a human being making an error. The machine will be more accurate, but will be very fast. The machine will never say, "Oh, this work is so boring," right? It will get it done so that you people have a lot of time left for more high-end or high-quality strategic work. So yes, but here there are some statistics. Some are old, but most statistics are very relevant. And the crux of these statistics is that whatever people did 5 years ago is not very relevant now, because time is changing and the technology is moving forward. The customer expectation is increasing, right? Let me take an example from the BFSI sector, right? So if you look at this age, all of us are doing online banking, internet banking, and all. But if I take you 12 to 15 years back, when maybe our parents started doing it, they did not do all of these. They just went into the branch, did the physical transaction, etc. With time, the customer expectation has increased. And that is actually putting a lot of load on the companies to implement AI, ML, analytics, automation, etc. Right? So analytics, if any of you had followed my orientation class, you would have seen that financial sector is one of the key pioneers for analytics. Right? Okay. Now you'd be questioning, can I have a list of values that can be added because of analytics? Yes. You can talk about improved processes, which we just discussed. Improved competitive position. Now imagine you have customer data, or let's say you have transactions data. Somehow you as a firm have used analytics to safeguard from potential fraud, whereas your competitor has not. Basically, I would be in a much better position than my competitor when it comes to security, anti-fraud measures, and even having customers come to my platform rather than my competitors. Right? Because I can analyze a lot of customer data and market data, I can come up with better customer experience, curated products, personalized products for my customers and also for the market. Right? Risk management becomes better. Now, can someone give me an example? So all of you would have actually dealt with risk, right? Like credit risk, market risk, operational risk, liquidity risk, right? Some of you would have built VAR models as well. Now, can somebody tell me how does analytics help in improved risk management? Yes. How does analytics help in improve risk management? Yes, guys.
By audit and compliance of the work which we do, risk management can be improved.
Okay. Okay. Let me give you some more examples. First of all, earlier, let's say you're building your risk models, right? So before AI and automation came in, what used to happen is I used to have very old data for building the model. Maybe I procured data, let's say 2 months back, and then I'm building a model. So data is not current. And something could have happened even 1 month old data, and something could have happened in the recent 2 weeks, which is not getting factored in my model. I'm building a risk model. Fortunately, with AI automation and everything coming in, my latest data can be pulled from diverse sources, and that can feed into my model, which will make sure that my risk management processes are up to date. I'm not using old outdated data, right? So you have so again, it can be used for asset management where you reduce the investment risk and do long-term planning, right? Because you can integrate analytics, your profitability will improve, right? And based on the new changing trends, you can curate your products for the customer. And being real time helps a lot when it comes to dealing with fraud and discovering areas of improvement, right? Okay. So guys, one more thing. Again, all of your finance, maybe experts in finance, right? But the purpose of this class is not to delve into or improving our knowledge of finance. It is integrating analytics with finance. The focus will not be on the financial side, but it will be how analytics can be used to get insights of the financial metrics and so on, right? So what I will like, let's say, expect you people to do is, for example, let's say if someone in the class is not very comfortable with, let's say, the terms, right, that is being used. For example, current ratio, as you see here. So I can easily explain that because I have had about a decade of experience in the world of finance. You people are also financial professionals, so you people can also explain. But maybe there's one or two people in the class who may not have understood what is current ratio or do not know. So in such a case, what I will expect is somebody of you take a lead and explain. For example, you can explain it like this, right? What is current ratio? Current ratio is nothing but a simple ratio between my current assets and my current liabilities. And higher the number, better it is. Which shows that, okay, the number is X, I can say that, okay, if my liability is something, my assets are about X times that my liability, right? Maybe 1.8 times that of my liability, so that it gives a picture of a better health of the organization. Similarly, you can explain days payable, outstanding, and all, right? So the purpose is not to understand these terms. The purpose is how analytics can be used to unearth insights. So if somebody, let's say among you, has a doubt of, okay, what is current ratio, maybe one of you from the group can take it up and explain rather than me doing it, right? So that way there'll be more communication within the group, right? Because see, at the end of the day, guys, if you're not confident in answering or communicating, then it will also be a big problem, right? So I want you people to improve your communication internally as well, right? Fine. So let's look at this dashboard as an example, right? And now let's analyze two situations at hand. Okay. Let's say day one, there's a situation where somebody came and he dumped all this data that you see in front of you in an Excel. Right? You had like three or four Excel sheets that he or she gave you, and you had to go through them and find out some analysis or trends, right? Now imagine another scenario where the Excel sheet was given to you, but you knew about data analytics. Since you knew about data analytics, what you did is you went ahead and tried to create a simple dashboard, right? So instead of if somebody asks you what is the current ratio, you don't need to go back to your Excel, do calculations, show them, take 10 minutes to the calculations, show them, etc. Right? You can simply point them, okay, look at my dashboard, it is very clearly showing 1.86. What's the DPO? It's close to 28 days. What has been my trend in the last 4 years when it comes to sales, NWC and GWC? It is more or less like this, right? Can you show me the trend of my account receivables over the last 4 months? Yes, I can, right? So the purpose of showing this particular dashboard is life becomes a lot easier with data analytics. Now imagine this dashboard was not with you. For every question that I'm asking, you would have to go back to your Excel sheet, do the calculation, and come back. The experience is horrible. And nobody will wait for every question. Nobody will wait for 5 minutes to go back to your Excel, do some calculations, and come back. The second thing, it is not visual, but this dashboard is. Rather than just throwing numbers, if something can be visually constructed and shown to a customer or the stakeholders, it will create a very good impact. It is easier to consume and it stays on the mind for a longer time. Right? Now, again, take an example. If let's say I'm selling 3 different, or let's say I'm concerned about sales, net working capital, and gross working capital over 4 years. A single chart not only gives me the trend for each, but I can also compare, which I will find it nearly impossible to do in 3 different Excel sheets. Right? The purpose of having this is to show that analytics makes your life much better because you have to take some informed decision. I can take using this rather than the Excel sheets. Right? So guys, all of you agree with me till here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now let's understand the what's what of analytics a bit. Okay, so I can call this as a value chain for the sake of simplicity. Now we can have 4 different things when we talk about the value chain. We can talk of descriptive, then we can talk of diagnostic, we can talk of predictive and prescriptive. Right? We will try to understand all these 4 using certain examples. Right? So why I call this as a value chain? If you see, the value that it provides goes on increasing, and this is the level of complexity, which means descriptive is less complex, but it also provides lesser value compared to a diagnostic, which again is less complex and provides lower value compared to predictive, and predictive compared to prescriptive, as a prescriptive provides higher value and is more complex, right? So this is a value chain. It increases. Now, what is descriptive analytics? Descriptive analytics is nothing, but it's also called as postmortem analysis when you collect past data and just summarize them and show them in a visually attractive manner, or maybe have some insights coming out of it. Right? An example could be, I'm just providing information of my last year revenue, last year sales, last year profit, etc. And comparing it with maybe the previous year and so on. An example of it is we lost $100K. So what you did, you tallied your profit and loss and came to the conclusion using past data that you have lost 100K. That's your loss. This is the minimum information that a descriptive analytics is providing. But you can further enhance it using diagnostic analysis where you try to diagnose what could be the root cause. Right? You can say we lost this much because of high material cost or high shipping cost or whatever it is. That kind of becomes a diagnosis. Okay. Now, predictive analytics, which is you're predicting something for the future based on current trends or past and current trends. You want to make a prediction for the future. And an example of it will be you will lose US dollar 20K until the year end. Now, with prediction, there is nothing called a 100% certainty. When you say we can lose USD 20K, you can lose 19K, you can lose 21K. I cannot 100% say that I will lose exactly 20K. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to look at the past data and trying to predict for the future. So there will be certain degree of uncertainty in this, right? So that is why you go for confidence level. Maybe with 95% confidence, I can say that I will lose 20K at the end of it, right? So the last is the most complex and it adds the maximum value. It's called prescriptive analytics. Now, just try to tie up this with a medical scenario, right? You had a fever, that becomes your descriptive. Then maybe you found out the fever was malaria, post the diagnosis. And the doctor says that if you do not take medicine, you will not survive, right? And then he gives you a prescription. If you take this medicine in this schedule, you will get well. Similarly, prescriptive analytics. If we improve production of unit 4 by 3%, we will achieve our target. If we switch to a new vendor, our shipping costs will go down by 2%. So this is what you're prescribing as an action, right? So if you see, prescriptive analytics comes with a call to action or CPA, right? It tells you if you do this, then this will happen, right? Guys, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So guys, whenever something is not clear, please feel free to discuss so that we can repeat. But this is how it looks, the what's and what of analytics. So by the previous example, two things would have been clear. Your descriptive and diagnostic is looking back, right? It could be, that's the reason descriptive is also called postmortem. But because it is least complex, most of the organizations do it. So most of the organizations will be doing descriptive and diagnostic. Little less number of organizations will be doing predictive, and far fewer will be doing prescriptive because these are complex, but they are the maximum value. So predictive and prescriptive is looking forward. Now, if you would have seen, even in prescriptive, if we reduce our shipping, if we change the vendor, our shipping cost will go down by 2%. It is looking forward. We are looking forward to if this action happens, then this might be the result, right? So we can always categorize our analytics into looking back or looking forward. Right? So what are the technologies that are mostly being used? Again, this is in the analytics world, not so much into data science and machine learning. So basically analytics, few organizations are using deep learning, AI, ML. Some people are using robotic process automation, cloud computing. Most people are using data visualization. The reason being, it is intermediate complexity, and most organizations do have their data set up ready for this. Not many organizations have their data set up ready for deep learning and machine learning yet, right? So the other reason is, at the end of the day, any analysis or outcome needs to be shown to your senior management in terms of a visually attractive and consumable dashboard. So data visualization plays an extremely important part in this. Okay. So what are some of the generic application of analytics in the financial industry, right? We'll talk about in the lending domain, right? We'll talk about investments, pricing strategies, operations, audit and compliance, customer service, trading, right? So how many of you have heard this term called robo-advisors? Yes? How many of you have heard this term called robo-advisors? Anyone?
No, I have not.
Okay, fine. So
No, I have.
okay, everybody is aware of the term called trading, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. How many of you know something called algorithmic trading?
So I do.
Okay. So again, I'm not saying algorithm trading is 100% accurate, but what you would have seen is earlier people were very intuition based, right? So, and that is fine. They had 20, 30 years of experience. They can say that maybe we'll buy this, will not put it. But these days, what is happening? Many people are gravitating towards algorithmic trading, right? Where maybe they use AI/ML to tell, okay, buy this, buy that, whatever it is, or maybe have rules set in place. What is also coming up is something called robo-advisors, specifically in the world of trade. So basically, they will advise what is the best portfolio for you, taking into account your risk appetite, your total available funds, etc. So earlier, there wasn't AI tell you, okay, maybe buy this, buy that, and this is the portfolio you should build. So robo-advisors is nothing but an AI-based let's say advice system for you to build your automated portfolio management practice, right? So because your robo-advisors has access to so much data, it can give you a more informed decision of what might work for you, what might not. Again, it is not to say that you blindly follow. You always take advice, then use some part of your understanding and then take advice. So that is what robo advisors, right? Those are gaining grounds in the financial industry, right? So let's come into an area called audit and accounting, right? Where maybe AI makes a huge difference, right? How? So I personally have worked for many years in one of the largest banks in the world, where maybe the auditing was pretty manually driven, right? Let's say there were 10,000 rows of data. Because a human auditor cannot test all 10,000 rows, maybe he or she picked up a sample of 100 rows. Now, can somebody tell me what is the biggest pitfall of sampling? Yes, what's the biggest pitfall of sampling? So, guys, you people are all aware of the term sampling, right?
No.
Okay. Basically, what happens is everybody knows audit or accounting, right?
Yes.
So in audit, you do sampling, right? For example, I'm trying to audit a particular function. What it has, let's say it is 10,000 rows. But since I am a human being with limited capabilities and time, I cannot actually test all the 10,000 rows. So what I do, I pick up a sample, which is more or less representative, which means maybe 100 rows I will randomly pick up. The problem is, I've picked up 100 rows from 1,000 records. There could be only one big point of failure in 568th row, which seems like a fraud. But because my sample did not have that, I will never be able to catch it. So that is an issue with sampling approaches. But with analytics coming in, what is happening is I can now touch upon all the 10,000 rows without having to sample. So I can test the complete sets of data rather than just testing samples, which means if there is any fraud that has happened in any of the row, that will get caught, right? What it can also do is it can help auditors in risk assessment, right? Where you identify anomalies and trends. Okay. Now, guys, one very important thing that we must realize here is when you have rule-based systems, right? Specifically in the world of finance, you have rule-based system which says this is the threshold. If this threshold is breached, then raise an alarm saying that okay, some fraud is there. Otherwise, no. So what happens is these rules become very static in nature, right? Let's say if your approval amount reaches $100, then raise an alarm, else do not. So what fraudsters generally do is they also know these thresholds. So they will never touch that, but they will make 10 transactions at $99, which is very close to the threshold, but not touching it. So from a static rule-based system, you'll never be able to identify this fraud. But if I use analytics and trends, I can see that this person is continuously going up to the threshold and coming back, coming back. So the trend that is created can help me uncover potential fraud, right? So that is how you can use analytics to capture possible fraud, which maybe a rule-based static system might not. Okay. Not only that, predictive analytics can help your accounting professionals get a deep insight into the client's business problems and suggest areas of improvement, right? And certain examples where CPAs are using analytics in the day-to-day operation is building budgets, analyzing loss drivers, forecasting sales, and even the expansion of the firm, right? A survey by Robert Half throws some very interesting insights. Okay, what they did is they did a survey which involved more than 2,100 CFOs. And more than 61% of them felt that your expertise in business analytics or BI data mining was mandatory in accounting and finance employees. Right? And that is what you can see. Almost 61% of the people feel, or the 61% of the 2,100 CFOs, which is let's say more than 1,250 people feel that out of those 2,100 CFOs basically feel that okay, business analytics skills are important for accounting and finance employees. Right? And if I take into account Brad Amis, who is a internal audit director at HP, during the interview process itself, they differentiate candidates who have experience in data exploration, data visualization, predictive modeling. So two equally good finance professionals, one with the strength of data and the other without the strength of data, there's a higher chance the one with the strength of data will get hired. Okay. So maybe I think what we will do is we have been speaking for more than an hour now. We will take a quick 5 minutes break. Okay. and then we will come to the analytics hierarchy. So now it's actually 11:31. So we'll quickly take a 5 minutes break, guys, and then we will come back at 11:37. It's 11:32 in my watch. So we'll come back at 11:37 and continue with the remaining part of the presentation. Okay. So let's understand the analytics hierarchy of needs first. Right? So how does it actually work? So first thing is, you cannot manufacture data. Right? First, you have to collect the data. So collection of data can be done by maybe setting up certain mechanisms where maybe anybody who interacts with your system leaves the data input. Right? You can collect it through forms. Right? So basically, first step, that somebody who uses a product needs the data to be collected first from them. Right? Then, unfortunately, the data that you collect in the real world, it is not in the optimum, let's say, way that can directly be used for analysis. For example, it is not structured properly, right? It is not clean. There are some garbage values. There is a lot of blanks, and all of these things are there, right? Basically, the next step that is required here is to clean the data, right? So data cleaning, data transformation, data manipulation, etc. will happen in this stage, right? Now comes the more interesting part. So if you would have heard earlier, there's a saying in the world of analytics which says, what cannot be tracked will probably go down or get lost. Okay? So here you have to define what are the KPIs or key performance indicators. What are the things that you are looking at? What is your area of interest? For example, somebody might say, if you belong, you can say, I am only looking at the overall profit and loss. That becomes a KPI. So whatever you're required, you have to define that, right? And make sure you can track that. Now you have to analyze the data where you have set internal benchmarks, right? For example, what does the conversion funnel say? What are the benchmarks, right? What is coming out of segmenting my user? What are the benchmarks? And then once that is done, you predict, right? This, it belongs to pyramid or analytics hierarchy of needs. Right? Now you would be thinking, I'm not sure how many of you are aware, there's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So same way we can create the hierarchy of needs for data analytics. So the left side is exactly Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So that is there in your psychology and all. Your basic needs, which is physiological. Then you have safety need. Once you have this, then you start looking at this. Then when you have this, you start looking at this. Then this, right? So physiological needs, then safety, then belonging, then importance, then self-actualization. This is how you go up in the value chain. Similarly, it had to create a mirror image of that in the world of analytics, what it will look like. It will look like this. The least, see, this is the least need, like food, shelter, clothing, and all that. So here, we have to look at the least of what I need in analytics is information or data to be captured. Once that is done, maybe one level up, I'll go, what happened, right? So I go for reporting. What happened? Descriptive. Now, why it happened? Diagnostic, right? One level up. Once this is satisfied, then I go here. Why it happened? Diagnostic. One level up, right? When this is satisfied, I go one level up. What next? Use predictive. And last, prescriptive, how to make it happen. Right? In the world of analytics, you start off with collect, move, store, explore, transform, aggregate, optimize. Right? So this is how you go up in the value chain. But before you start any of these, you can question upfront saying, what are the metrics we should be targeting? Do we have data on XYZ? Why is a certain metrics lower than expected? And so on. Right? So if you keep asking these questions here, you can actually go here. Right? Okay. Now we will look at what we are practically going to do in the next few sessions. Okay. We're going to talk about our execution pipeline and steps in the DA process. Basically, I mentioned in most of your organization, your data will be there in your databases. So without having the ability to pull that will render all our analytics need redundant. So that is why we will also deal with SQL. So imagine this is a database where you have all your data. Right? What next? We will make sure we are in a position to pull that data by writing query to fetch that data. Right? Once the data is fetched, we can either plot it in Power BI as a visualization tool or plot it in Tableau as another visualization tool, both of which we will learn, or we will put it in Excel and create visualization. All three of which is what we will learn. Right? So guys, whatever we are going to learn has been summarized in these few images. Right? So we will be having a touch point in each of this. This, right? Any questions, queries, concerns at this point, guys? Yes?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
I think one of you mentioned you had used some amount of Power BI, right? Earlier? Okay. So, Bhashwant, you mentioned you have used some amount of Power BI, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you used like databases, Excel, Tableau?
Yes, I have learned it through the Udemy only. Not much using in terms of working concern.
Okay. What about others? Like you have Christina, Pralok, and Saharsh. Any experience with any of the things that you see on the slide?
Only
Excel,
Excel.
Excel
Yeah.
and a little bit with no database SQL.
No SQL databases, basically.
Yes.
Excel
Yeah.
again. Like I've been using Excel from a long time, but I've explored Power BI little bit, but would want to know more.
Okay. So when you
Yeah.
say you have used Excel, what exactly you have used it for?
So I'm into risk advisory, internal audits. So it would mostly be with respect to some bit of analytics and then pulling out
You built
samples.
those VAR models and all, is it?
Sorry.
So you because you're in risk advisory, you would have built a lot of VAR models, right?
Risk advisory would be internal audit, not uh, you know. So
Okay, because when I also led the data science function in internal audit, right? So basically, I
oh,
have helped people build those VAR models, the value at risk models, right?
right.
So those modules in the advisory. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think Pralok and Madhuri, both we did not have a chance to have a bit of an intro. I think there was some connection problem from your end. So maybe both of you can, I mean, if you have joined as students, maybe can you maybe throw a bit of light on what your exact background is, what is your experience with analytics, and what maybe do you expect from this session, so that we will have some benchmark going forward.
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So I'm Pralok. I've an experience of about 13 plus years, mostly in risk advisory, statutory audits, and compliances. I right now I work with Deloitte in the risk advisory team. So with respect to data analytics, right now, big data coming in, right, for testing purposes and for analyzing and forensic related work. It becomes more. I was reading. I was going through the first session where you said some bit of visualization would give a better picture for analyzing a particular data, right? So that's what I am looking at, a little bit of fine tuning of what we already know. Yeah.
Got it. And which location do you belong to? You know?
I'm from Bangalore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have your Deloitte offices in a lot of places. Well, I was in Bangalore. It was near that CGI office in Yamloor. That is one of the locations that I am familiar with.
Okay. So I'm from the main office, which is in central Bangalore, if you know golf course.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, I think Madhuri, maybe next you can
Yes, sir.
speak up. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Hello, everyone. I'm Madhuri. I'm from Pune. Currently, I'm working at Mastercard as a FP&A analyst, and I have overall 2.5 years of experience. So, about this, database which I'm using currently, like I have used Tableau, but it is like created dashboard. I haven't created any dashboard, and of course Excel. Apart from that, this like I haven't used Power BI or SQL anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fine. So what we will do is we will make sure that you somehow get a comfort on the end to end, right? So because what would have happened is,
Mm-hmm.
I think most of you would somebody will download some data and give it to you, and then you will pull it into Tableau or Power BI or even Excel and build something, right? So the purpose of this program is we will at least be in a stage where maybe we can do some amount of work inside the database, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if required, if the data is used, we will pull it, because see, inside the database you can get information but not visualization. So what we can do is we can enable ourselves to write basic queries so that data can be fetched here, transformed, and shown as a visual interface. So we have, as I think, I'm not sure how many of you missed the initial part where I was showing the schedule. Maybe in each of these we have at least three odd use cases. So in total we'll have 10 plus different use cases as hands-on, right?
Okay.
So that is what we will have. So I think it will be easy. Post the session, it will be easy for you to work on this, and everything in total, right? Because later on, maybe you might be looking for a career change, in the sense that you might be switching. So there could be a firm where, let's say, current firm has Power BI, but the new firm might be having Tableau, right? That will give you an added advantage of knowing multiple tools to do the same thing, right? And not just getting restricted to a single tool, right? So that's the purpose. Right. So whenever I begin any data analytics process, I have to follow certain, maybe a structure that will make my life easier rather than being very random. Any process that needs to be started always has to start with an objective. Right? For example, you just cannot randomly, because see, the moment you do not know the objective, you'll never be able to know which is the data that will fulfill my objective. Right? If your purpose is to see, I'm just giving another example. If your purpose is to see what is the profit and loss I've made in the last year, I cannot pull HR data. I'll have to pull revenue related data, sales related data. So knowing the objective will not only allow me to pull the right amount of data and ask the right amount of questions. Upfront, you can say whether such a thing might be possible or not. Because if somebody asks you, can you tell me what is the employee attrition in my firm? Because the objective is known, you can decide whether that is doable or not. Because do we have the data stored, or our firm does not capture the data? So rather than just blindly agreeing, yes sir, I'll get it done, because your objective is clear and you know that for this objective I will require HR related data, which maybe my firm has not stored. So I'll have to say, unfortunately, we cannot because we do not have the data. Rather than agreeing to something and then finding out, okay, it cannot be done. So defining your objective is the most important step in this process. Once that is done, you are very clear what is the data you need, right? So you ask, poll, whatever you do, you will get the data. Then you do your analysis, but that is only 50% of it. So once you have completed your analysis, which is building dashboards in Power BI, Excel, Tableau, you're only 50% through. What is the use of the analysis if it cannot be communicated effectively to your stakeholders? So effective communication post-analysis creation is an equally big step. And last but not the least, the insights that come out must be actionable in nature, right? For example, you can say our profit is dipped by 5% over the last quarter because of an increase in the cost of shipping. So what can be done? We can act upon finding another vendor where the shipping cost is low, or find ways to reduce our shipping cost. So these are the steps or the process that needs to be followed for effective analytics, right? Okay. Let's understand each of the steps. When somebody says that you have to define the objective, you have to be very clear. You have to ask them for details to understand the problem, whether the problem is a new problem or you have to solve an existing problem. Okay. Now, do you have the required support to execute this objective? Right. So those are things that will go to defining the objectives. Now, let's say you are very clear what the objective is. The next step is identify the data neighbor. So data can be multiple types of data, right? You can have structured data, your customer data, your financial data, your point of sales data, POS, you swipe your card. So all of these can be structured. But in real world these days, not all of the data is structured. Some of the data is unstructured. For example, your text files, photos, images, etc., they are unstructured. So I should be aware that the total data that is needed could be a combination of structured and unstructured data. And I should have the mechanisms to somehow convert the unstructured data into structured data. But there could be another set of data that could be semi-structured. So structured is something you can imagine an Excel sheet, rows, columns, a database table, etc. But an XML document, etc., might be semi-structured, right? So we should be having the ability to convert all of them into structure and then analyze. So getting the data will involve an ETL process. ETL is nothing but extract the data, transform the data, and load the data. ETL, right? Now you can work on the analytics part, where maybe you are okay with descriptive, you need predictive, or you need prescriptive, whatever it is. That is the analytics part, right? And then comes the communication of results. To dashboards, data visualization, or maybe you create a report, right? You provide a key summary document, or maybe you create data stories using storytelling dashboards, right? And then act on whatever is the required steps. So this is the basic steps in analytics process. Okay, so guys, let's do some hands-on activities, right? So here what we will do is, I think all of you are aware of account receivables, account payables, etc., right? That's the basic things in finance. Account receivable is what maybe you'll receive from a client or a customer. Account payable is whatever you need to pay to a vendor, right? So everybody knows account payable, account receivable. Now what I will do is I will show you a particular data set. So what you need to do is look at the data set, independently tell me, if you are the analyst who had this data set in front of you, what are the different type of analysis that can be performed, and what will be the use of such an analysis, right? So we will first do it for account receivable, then we will do for account payable, and then we will do it for IT tab. So IT tab is nothing but it contains data about people terminated in a company, or maybe the access terminations in a company. Your accounts payable and accounts receivable have the AP and AR data respectively, right? So guys, here I need maybe a participation from all 5 of you, right? Right. So let me quickly show you the data. Guys, is it visible?
Yeah, visible.
So let's take up the account receivable, right? So maybe I have to receive money from a customer. Okay, so you have the customer name, customer address, the account number, the invoice number, and the gross amount in IR, which I should receive. Similarly, I have accounts payable. I have the invoice number. This is the invoice amount I need to pay, whether the payment has been authorized yet or not. So this is account payable, how much I need to pay to my vendors. So I cannot randomly pay without it being authorized for payment. So if this belongs to a vendor, this much amount has been authorized to be paid. Maybe some of them are yet pending authorization, right? So let's combine these two, and you people can tell me one by one. You think using this information, right? See, again, don't think there are only 5 or 6 rows. That could be 5,000 rows. I'm just showing you a sample to give you an here. The rows are not important. The columns are important, right? So maybe looking at the column and the type of data that is there, what are the various analysis that is present here and how that will benefit some, right? So I've taken account receivable, accounts payable, right? Maybe for the sake of benefit, let me just pull this also there so that it has everything in one sheet. Let's say this is account receivable, this is accounts payable. So guys, now just look at this AR and AP data and please come out with scenarios of what different analysis you people can think of right now and how it will be important to the firm. So guys, at least I need responses from each one of you. Right? This is no rocket science. It will just help you turn your gray cells on. Yes. So please, one by one, please volunteer.
So with respect to accounts
So
receivable,
because I cannot see your name, it will be great if you
Pralok
could
here.
just Pralok. Yeah,
Pralok here.
please, Pralok, go ahead.
So with respect to accounts receivable, we can probably analyze number of days outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
which would give us a picture of, say, for example, do we have to create a provision or not?
Yes. So because if you go here, I think some of that is already shown here. So if you days payable outstanding, so you could have a similar days receivable outstanding, right?
Right.
Fine. That is good. But let us so that I understand. But let's just restrict to whatever columns we have here. Based
Acha,
on
okay.
that, what do you think you can? Just look at these columns. So this is your account receivable, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, and accounts payable maybe 3 columns, right? So just look at this and think of what you can do and how it will be beneficial to the firm. Hello, guys. Please take a couple of minutes, think along, and then maybe come up with some suggestions. What are the different analysis that is possible and how that will be useful for the firm?
We can probably plot Pralok here again. The top 5 gross amount wise. That is, we would come to know the top 5 customers by receivable.
Yes, that is
Because
one
we,
good.
yeah, because we have from an analytical point of view, only the gross amount is where we can probably put some thought.
That is one thing.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing maybe which maybe I do, and others please chime in. Only if Alok has mentioned something. Others, what do you think?
In terms of Bhaswant here, in
Yes.
terms of payables, if you think it will be the highest amount which is payable to the company firm that
So this is
can, if it
receivable.
is
This is
authorized.
payable.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was saying in the
Yeah.
top 5 top amount which is payable if
By
it
the firm.
are authorized, by the firm, so that they can revenue can be increased to the firm.
Actually, payable will reduce your maybe it will be outgoing. This will be incoming.
So
This will be outgoing.
Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. One good thing is, if I say that 90% of my AP is unauthorized, so I have a concern whether it is unauthorized flow because it got declined, or it is unauthorized because people are yet to look into it, right? So yes, that could be. You could show your distribution of what is the value that is lying in the authorized bucket versus what is lying in the unauthorized bucket, right? That is one thing. Second thing you can also look at is duplicate payments, right? You can run a very basic check which says, okay, 431 is occurring here. Do I see 431 being repeated somewhere else also, right? So same invoice number getting repeated twice or thrice. And if it is repeated, I'm safe as long as maybe one of them is authorized, one of them is unauthorized, or both of them are unauthorized. But if both of them are authorized, then it becomes an issue, right? You are dealing with duplicate invoices, duplicate payment, right? Now,
Yes.
the other issue is if I see 431 with 77777 and I see 431 with 88888, which means same invoice number having 2 different invoice amounts, right? So these are areas of concern which I can highlight using AP, right? Now what I can do is I can go to AR. In AR, I think Pralok already mentioned the gross amounts distribution. What I can also look at is
in terms of AP, I hope line number 11 and 82, those are the like we can consider it as old invoices.
sorry, which one?
In AP,
Mm-hmm.
AP category, line number 15, invoice number 11 and 74. So, oldest invoice number, so we can consider that the reason for the unauthorization, I hope.
Yes. So here, what more can be done here is basically you can also do, let's say, this is account receivable. So which says that okay, maybe from one particular vendor or sorry client or customer, how much money I am yet to receive, right? So we can say okay, maybe this uh, something on the top, the values. Okay, maybe these are the top 5 values. And also I'm saying that okay, maybe the client has not paid me since last couple of months. So what could happen is this account number could have different invoices for the last 3 months with different amounts. So I can do an analysis on the account number and say that okay, how many are yet to be received from this customer. So I can say okay, this particular customer has 5 pending items to pay me. This has 7, and so on. So I can say okay, top 5 companies which owe me a lot of money, right? That can be done basically on the number of the account number. So basically, see, when you do it at the gross amount, it will be, let's say, $1 million is owed to me. But on account number, you can say there are 5 different transactions that are owed to me. They might sum up to 1 million, but you can say 5 different transactions are still pending by this company to be paid to me, right? So one you can do it on the number of transactions, the other you can do with the value of transactions, right? So the first one can simply be done by every account number. You will group by the number of invoices and the sum of the gross amounts as well, right? So it can say company X, 5 invoices, $1 million. So you get you not only get the number of occurrences but also the absolute amount, right? So guys, some clarity on this. Are we good? Let's come up to a new scenario, right? Okay. So basically, let's say you are a organization. This is the employee ID. So this is basically encrypted, guys. So that because it was actually real data, right? So what I did, I encrypted the data so that nobody can find out what it is. So employee ID, first name, last name, email of the employee, right? Username of the employee, the IP address or the internet protocol address that he uses, what application does that person use generally, right? This is the date on which the access to the application was removed. DD format. This is the date where the HR terminated the employee from the organization. Okay. So with these informations, so guys, here it is something that all of you should be able to answer. It does not have any financial jargon in this. So I'm just trying to improve your ability to look at the data and come up with some thoughts. By looking at these columns, 9 columns basically, what are the different analytics scenarios that you can think of? Guys, I want all of you to participate.
In this, I can say that maybe we can select column I and see, like, in particular months, how many employees were terminated by HR per month.
Okay. See, guys, one thing you should remember is all these employees are terminated. But what you mentioned, if I rephrase you can say month by month, how many people are getting terminated, right? Let's say August, these many, September, these many, and so on, right? Yes, that is one analysis. Yes. So may I know the name because ma'am, I'm unable to see who is speaking. Sorry, Christina. Okay, okay. Yeah, go ahead. Someone else was also speaking.
Yes, sir. Madhuri here, sir.
Yes,
So we can also do an analysis like application wise, whose access we should remove. So because
we should remove or we have removed because see,
sorry,
what column H says is this is the date on which the access to the application was removed, which means this is something that is done.
Okay.
So because in none of the cases you see a blank here. If there was a blank, it could have meant that it has not yet been removed, right?
So, Pralok here,
Yeah.
we can do a couple of things. One is any duplication of employee IDs, and
Okay.
then we can also analyze if, ideally, date of access removal should be after the date of termination. So, we can also analyze that, and if there is a policy around that, we can analyze as to say for example within 7 days the access should be removed is the policy, and if the access removal has gone beyond a certain particular date, then that can be analyzed, and an observation can be made there as well.
Got it. Yeah, very close, fellow. So, so this application removal, so this access removal, this termination will mean the last working day. So basically, ideally, very similar to what you said, but here maybe the access to, so as long as you have resigned, maybe the access needs to remove first, and then you will be terminated, or maybe you will have your last working day. Now, the major thing is you have to check other instances where the application access was removed after the employee left, which means you from your end made a grave mistake of allowing the employee access even after he has left, unauthorized access. So ideally, yes, the policy says that before the last working day the access should be revoked. Has that been done? You can just compare these two and find out anomalies, right?
Yeah.
And then you can see, okay, which are the, see here, let me go step by step. So first thing, I think Pralok mentioned duplication in IDs. That is one thing. Yes. Second thing, application wise. So for example, if I've lost like 15 employees in the last 1 month, which are the applications that will mostly be impacted? For example, there could be one application where 5 employees have left. There could be one on which only 1 has left. So that will help me plan the new recruitment, saying that okay, this application had earlier these many people, but 5 employees have left, 5 people have already left. The people who are using this application have already left, which means the application does not have enough support to be run for the next month. So I need to hire. That will also give you an application-wise view. And again, as Pralok mentioned, column H and I can be compared to see anomalies or deficiencies from the IT team in revoking the application on time, access on time, right? So these are some of the examples that we can actually look at by looking at a data set. So the purpose of this whole exercise, guys, was that whenever you look at data, should start thinking, okay, what could be possible analysis that is possible here? So always try to give more than what is asked for, which means your organization might be expecting one very small analysis, but if you can add on to it, you will improve their experience, right? So this is how it will improve with time when we start analyzing more and more such data points, right? Okay. So guys, I think a few of you people joined late. So I'm not sure whether all of you have access to the file that I shared, the PDF. If not, I'll reshare it again. Okay. I'm resharing it for the benefit of everyone. All of you, please see if you can read the chat that I just sent.
Yes, sir. Chat is visible.
Okay. So let me share a file. Please download the file once I've shared it. Okay. So guys, for the next class, which is tomorrow, what I have done is I have created a step-by-step process of installing MySQL, right? The file is just shared with you. Download that, follow the steps today, maybe after the class, and try to install and get this software ready in your system for tomorrow, maybe, right? So that we don't spend a lot of time in installing, and maybe we can get started with the presentation itself. So please download, guys, all of you. I think 5 of you, right? So fine. Let me continue with the next part. Okay, so now it says session 3, but maybe we'll cover few of the slides today so that tomorrow we will mostly start off with the execution part or hands-on part, right? So before coming to SQL, what I also want to introduce you to certain tools and technologies in the world of data. So that tomorrow, if you just step out and somebody asks you very basic questions of what is a relational database, what's a NoSQL database, you should be able to answer, right? So it should not happen that people will say you just came out of an analytics class and you don't know what's a NoSQL database, right? So we will only touch upon, will not go into the depths. We will just have a very basic understanding of what are these. And from tomorrow, we will start off with SQL, right? Which will be more hands-on. I think all of you can see the screen. Okay. What exactly is a relational database? Okay. Imagine MySQL, Oracle, Teradata, all of this. What do we have in them? We have different tables, right? This could be one table. This could be one table. This could be one table. Similarly, your customer information could be one table. Your product orders could be one table. So based on the subject area, you will have multiple tables in the database, right? Now, it could so be possible that a single table does not provide us all the information, right? So what we need to do, we need to join multiple tables together to get a consolidated information that we require. Right? So a collection of information that organizes these data points with a defined relationship is a relational database. Rows and column format. For example, let's take this example. You have customer information where you have customer ID, C1, C2, the names, the address of the people. So this is your customer information table. Now you also have another table of people who purchased different orders. So you have customer ID, the product that was purchased, and this is the date of the order. Now, if I only had this table, could I have answered what is the product bought by John Smith? If I only had this table. No. And if I only had this table, could I have answered who purchased product 01? No. But if I join or combine both the tables using the common key, which is your customer ID here, customer ID here, I can say John Smith, who has the customer ID of C001 and stays in 123 Example Street, purchased a product called Product 01 on 6th of May 2021. Right? So by combining both the tables, I'm able to build this entire story. Right? So table will have data points that are related to each other, and different tables can be related to each other as well. For example, let's take this example. So let's say I have pets, right? So I've named my pet as Fido, Rex, Bubbles, Cujo. I also have the preference. Would you prefer dry food or wet food? And I have something called good boy, yes, no, which means is it a very well-behaved pet or it's a very angry and cranky pet? That is my pet information, right? And then another table has tag numbers. What is the height and weight of the person with this tag number? Another table has a tag number, name, right? What is the breed of the pet? What is the color and what is the age of the pet? Now remember, now again look at this example, right? And think of whether each table individually is sufficient to answer a lot of questions or combining them makes more sense, right? So how will you combine tables? So if you see, if I talk about table 2 and table 3, table 1, table 2, table 3. Table 2 and table 3 can be combined or joined using tag number, which is common, right? Similarly, table 1 and table 3 can be joined. So table 1 and 2 cannot be joined. There is nothing common. But table 1 and table 3 can be joined on the name. So once I join this, I have so much information, I can build a story which says, my dog named Fido, who prefers dry food and is a good boy, has a tag number called 1573. He belongs to the breed of beagles. He's slightly brownish white in color. He's about 1.5 years old, has a height of 15 inches and a weight of 21 pounds. Clear? Guys, are we able to appreciate how combining different tables will give us a very holistic view of anything that we have in our database? Right? Guys, did all of us understand the examples that I'm giving here right now?
Yes, sir.
And everybody is clear with the concept of relational databases and how different tables can be joined on a common key. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we have clearly understood what's a relational database. Right? For example, you can have one table here, one table here. You can have a common column and you can join, and these will have rows and columns. But there could be non-relational databases as well. Relational databases only store structured data in rows and columns. Non-relational databases can store unstructured, semi-structured data and also structured data, but can also store unstructured and semi-structured data. Now, an example of a non-relational database could be a NoSQL database. When I say NoSQL, it does not mean the yes and no SQL. It means not only SQL. No is not that yes, no, wala no. It is not only SQL, which means it is beyond SQL. It can store documents, can store files, can store non-structured, unstructured data, etc. Right? So if I take an example of a relational database, it could be your Oracle, Teradata, it could be your MySQL. But if I take an example of NoSQL database, it could be MongoDB, right? So where you can store unstructured data or as documents, right? So here the way of storing, searching, retrieving data is very different. For example, here, if you see, this is how a non-relational database will store data. Here, purchase order to store the name, ID, items, price, and then if I have to get item type, I will fetch data from here. If I have to get customer name, I'll fetch from here, right? So anyways, we are not going to deal with or non-relational databases, but this is just for your information. Non-relational databases could be your document-based databases, it could be key value pair, it can be column-based, right? It can be graph-based. So graph databases like Neo4j and all, right? So this is an example of a graph database that I was telling you, right? So if I had to store the data of two people in a relational database or structured database, it would have been like this. The columns would have been name, where do you stay, what do you do, etc. Right? Or what do you like? But in a NoSQL or a graph database, in an unstructured database, the data will be stored like this. What's a member? Right? What do you like? likes pizza. Anand M and Ratan T both like pizza, right? Anand M drives a BMW. He lives in Delhi, right? He's a member of the Sonu Nigam fan club. He's also a member of Sonu Nigam fan club. If this was done in a structured way, it would have been name, member of, stays at, drives, likes, all being columns, and then information in 2 rows. But this is how an information stays in a graph database. Okay, graph. Right? But don't need to worry, guys, because we will not be going into using this. But just to give you an idea of what it is. Okay. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine. So I think we have completed till what's a graph database. For tomorrow, maybe what we will do is we will start from here. We will do a bit of understanding of what is big data, right? Then we will do just spend 5 minutes on understanding what is big data. Then we will spend 5 odd minutes in understanding what is ML. Then we will see how visualization and reporting can be done. And then we will directly go into SQL. Maybe in the first 15-20 minutes, we will spend in understanding these things, and then we will directly go to SQL, right? So guys, my request is, please follow the document that I have shared, okay? And follow the multi-step installation process that I have clearly highlighted in the document, right? In the worst to, I mean, none of you should face any issue. The worst to worst circumstance, if any one of you get stuck, just do a simple Google search or maybe a YouTube video where they will show you how it needs to be. But this is everything is captured there, right? One point of caution is whenever your security key or password, root password is generated, please make sure to store it, note it down somewhere. Do not lose your root password, right? What is that's also mentioned in the document, right? Do not lose your root password. Remember to store it somewhere or maybe write it down. Okay. So the document clearly shows you visually where you need to click, what you need to do, right?
Yes, sir.
The multi-step process. So follow that. Tomorrow, guys, you have this ready, right? So that we can start maybe after a few minutes of understanding big data, ML and all, we can start with SQL, right? So maybe tomorrow, same time we will meet. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.